Yes, what's happening, people? We are back with a brilliant brand new episode of Bolts, Bars and a Bit of Bird. About to hit you up with screws are about to be kitted up with tasers. Agree or disagree? Let's crack on. Specially trained staff in male prisons in England and Wales will be issued with tasers as part of a new trial to clamp down on violence. Fight violence with violence has always been my motto. The pilot comes as new figures obtained by the BBC show that more than £20 million has been paid out in damages over 5 years to staff and prisoners who have been assaulted. I once personally saw an inmate in Pentonville cut the bottom of his own foot with a blade and then claimed to the officers that he'd cut it on a metal shard that was hanging off a bunk bed. He was awarded £300. Ministers say they will look at whether the electric stun gun should be more widely used after the trial this summer. The Prison Officers Association said the cost of the intolerable levels of violence was an issue the government needed to tackle with a sense of urgency, and the use of tasers was long overdue. Problem, reaction, solution. Let the violence get totally out of control, then solve it by turning the screws into Mickey Mouse Robocops. Speaking after watching a demonstration of the technology at a training facility in Oxfordshire, Lord Chancellor and Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood said the government would not allow jails to be controlled by fear and disorder. And I suppose tasers will give a nice fluffy feeling of love and joy. After all, there's only one side that is allowed to control by fear and violence and disorder, and it definitely ain't the prisoners. We're already rolling out protective body armour, and by trailing tasers we'll be making sure that the staff have the tools they need to keep themselves safe. Mark Fairhurst, chairman of the POA, said prisons have been overcrowded for decades, which leads to a lack of activity spaces for prisoners, leading to boredom, drug abuse and violence. Staff must be equipped with the personal protective equipment they need to prevent violence and prevent life-changing injuries. If one of the main reasons jails are so dangerous is the overcrowding problem, then why don't they tackle that? If less prisoners equals less violence, then surely that should be a no-brainer. That won't happen though, because every prisoner that gets incarcerated becomes a pound sign. More prisoners equals more money. More money equals more people getting rich that we don't ever see. The powers that be couldn't care less about screw safety. The tasers will be issued to Specialist National Unit, which will respond to complex and serious incidents in men's prisons where there is a risk to safety, including hostage situations. Intervention follows an attack on 3 prison officers in April at HMP Franklin in County Durham. Former officer Claire Lewis, who is still affected by severe PTSD after being stabbed by a prisoner 15 years ago, is welcoming the taser rollout in limited situations. She said tasers are a great piece of kit, however, only in an environment whereby it's a planned extraction or if there's an assault on a wing. What they mean is, we're only going to use it for this, but eventually it's going to be used for this. Miss Lewis, who also works at HMP Franklin, is campaigning for all officers to have stab-proof vests. If I'd have had a vest on when I was attacked, I would not have received the serious injury I did to my back. It narrowly missed my spinal cord. I can understand that. The latest Ministry of Justice figures shows the number of staff assaulted in adult prisons across England and Wales hit a new peak last year. Between 2020 and 2024, there were 334 compensation claims for prisoner-on-prisoner assaults, 232 prisoner-on-staff cases and 104 claims of staff assaulting inmates, according to the BBC Freedom of Information Act. Joan, not her real name, a former prison worker in the southeast of England, said they used to use snooker balls in socks. Now they use full cans of drinks in socks to attack each other. Joan. They make knives out of tuna cans, and I did see an officer get kettled, which means hot water thrown over him. I've got to say, Joan doesn't sound like a real name. Doesn't sound like a real person. I know it's definitely not a real name. Does not sound like a real person. What would you be more scared of getting hit with? A snooker ball or a can of Coke? The journalist who made Joan up sounds like they've been watching Scum and Bad Boys. Not The Bad Boys with Will Smith, the one with Sean Penn, the better one. Check that film out. The prison service says it is also ramping up the number of full lockdown searches in high security jails to stop more of the contraband which fuels violence. Last month, anti-drone measures such as new netting and reinforced windows were announced. President of the Prison Governors Association, Tom Wheatley, backed the taser trial by specialist officers but not by a wider rollout of all staff. If they were issued to all officers on a daily basis, it could carry additional risk, he said. Certainly not issued more generally because they form a threat item. So if somebody managed to get a taser off a member of staff, they could do some real damage. During my time behind the door, I came across more than one screw that you would not want in charge of a crayon, let alone a bloody taser. Stay united, stay safe.